Welcome to Behind the Story, where we discover the story behind your favorite stories. My name is Lisa Renee from the Collab Press, and I'm also a rom-com author.
And I'm Naomi Craig. I write biblical fiction. We had a fun interview with Elaine Kelly from Biblical Fiction World. But before we get into that, Lisa, what are you working on?
Well, I am working on a few things, but on a personal note, I should be, by the time this airs, a GMA. Now, what's a GMA?
Yeah.
It's a grandma that doesn't want to be called a grandma. I put out to my newsletter a while ago. I have a lot of retired ladies, that read my books and stuff. And I said, what's a good name and for a grandma? But it sounds younger. So anyway, because I feel I'm still young.
Yeah.
My daughter has moved and her husband have moved in while the house is getting built. So it's so awesome. They're going to be there for the first 3-4 months with the baby in our house.
That's awesome.
So when you watch this, I'll be holding my little grandbaby girl. Her name's Oceana. So, so that's exciting. So I'm trying to get everything done, and I have to make room for that. I'm doing the Kickstarter for the pen name. So if you follow
Yes.
or me, maybe you might be able to work it out what my pen name is with my co-author. But we've got a Kickstarter. So doing that and writing the next book in that series. Also, my Kickstarter for Lisa Renee rom-coms was finished, and I've sent out all the books and the hardcovers and all that kind of stuff. So now I am making the next stage is making the novella available on my direct to the author, so on my PayHip site. So that's sort of like the next stage, and then it will go onto the platforms like Amazon. So a lot of authors are doing this now.
Yeah.
Some bigger authors that are indie authors that are very successful, they've had things like random things happening, like their Amazon account shut down and
Oh no.
huge loss of income. And it might be just for a couple of days or whatever, but it's a big deal to them, and it sort of wakes you up and a bit scary for those people. And also people exclusive to Amazon, the Kindle Unlimited page read rate has dropped, and so that's also making people consider, for some people that's
Other option.
they have.
So what do you, so if I paid through your PayHip, how does that get delivered and how do I read it? Is that through BookFunnel?
Yes, so BookFunnel is sort of the go-to for authors. It's very simple,
Right.
and have a support system as well. But a lot of people are familiar with BookFunnel, but it is very user-friendly. Step by step, it shows you what to do,
Right.
and it gets it onto your e-reader, Kindle device, or your
Yeah, you could either
iPhone.
use it with BookFunnel or send it over to your Kindle app. Or there's a couple of different options that BookFunnel will support, isn't there? Like,
Yes,
it's really simple, even if you just download the BookFunnel app on your phone or whatever.
Yeah, and most people know to sign up to someone's newsletter. Most authors, it's BookFunnel to sign up, get their free novella, or all that kind of stuff. So most people are familiar with it. A lot of people are doing that. They're starting up a PayHip site or a Shopify site. They're coming out of Amazon with some of the exclusivity, and then so it can be available on Kobo and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But direct as well. So instead of paying Amazon a royalty out of that, the author is able to keep pretty much nearly 100% minus your credit card fees or whatever. So that's something. But if you do, you can still, as an author, do that. You can do the stages, selling it, do a launch on Kickstarter, do it on your website, and you can go into Amazon later exclusively. You have to take it off your website, but people are getting the advantages. People are getting it earlier, and they're supporting their author. So
usually authors will offer a bit of a discount too. Maybe it's not the only way to do it, but I have seen it's cheaper on the author's website to buy direct through the PayHip BookFunnel process, because then we're not giving away.
They offer a bundle as well, so you might get up to 50% off if you buy it in a bundle, like the series or something like that.
Yeah,
so another way that people can save. So yeah, the author gets something, gets more and keeps them in business, basically, because it is, at the end of the day, it is a business. Once you've done your dream books in the beginning, your first book and whatever, but at the end of the day, if you're going to keep writing as an author and, you know, part-time,
Right.
full-time, you need to start paying the bills, you know, covering everything, the editors and covers, but also like making a living at it, because it takes a lot of time to do this. So yeah, if you love your authors and you like their books, you got to
Yeah.
support them. So
Yeah, you might have to adapt just a little bit, but we
yeah.
appreciate you as readers, and thank you for continuing to buy books even with this weird, uncertain Amazon era right now, and we greatly appreciate you.
Yes, and I'm really excited that your Kickstarter funded.
Yay!
Yay. So tell us about that. Where will
Yeah,
you be at when this goes live, or people?
when this goes live, it will already be fully done. So whatever happens from here on out is icing on the cake. We started out with a low goal just to get, you know, first one done and stuff. So we have some really good interaction, and we're really excited. This is for And Their Numbers Grew, and that's our New Testament with Donna, Elaine, and yeah, so we're having a lot of fun with that. And it's been a great adventure, and um, just excited to see how that one will work out all together, and we're excited to get that into the hands of the readers. It's with our editor now, so she's on a Google document, and so as she goes through, like, she's on my part right now, so I'm kind of following her. I'm a couple of days behind her, trying to stay on top of my edits, so it'll be ready and fast, and then it's a release date of November 14th, so it's coming up. I also just got On Desolate Heights, my novella. I got that actually up on a lot of platforms. It's on Amazon, Apple Books, Kobo, and yeah. So if you've read On Desolate Heights, Balaam's story, I'd love for you to pop up. There's now a place to put a review on, and it's free on those platforms. So it's you could also get it from my newsletter too, but this is no email commitment on my end. So although my emails are pretty cool, I've got to say, I put out a behind the story that always has a giveaway. I put out lots of biblical fiction stuff and all kinds of stuff. But if you don't want to hear that and just want the book anyway, then that's
You
okay.
do have a very good newsletter, I must say. It's very chock-a-block. There's lots in it.
There's lots happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do it once a
So
month or once a fortnight?
it's 2 times a month, because to keep up with behind the story schedule. So
yeah.
I was doing once a month, but then it'd be like, oh well, I guess you missed out on that giveaway because I didn't put that one's already passed. So, but it's really nice to actually have, like, it's helped to have a set thing to put on my newsletters, you know, and it really has helped my brain wrap around it. So we're getting On Desolate Heights on audio, so I'm excited about that. And I'm recording now, and hopefully I'll be able to figure out the other end of it on the here shortly. So
yeah, I
so
think the
that'll be
editing
coming.
part takes a bit longer than the actual recording.
Yeah, so my husband does a word of hope every week, and it airs on our local radio station, which is pretty amazing. And so I was hearing him do this one time, and he was like editing as he's going. He'd say a sentence and edit there. So I've employed that, so I won't have to go back in and say, oh, I didn't like how that word sounded. You know, I think I can catch that, like, which I commonly do, is stumble over myself, you know. I can just stop right there. So I think some of the editing as I go is going to be helpful. So
that sounds like a good way to do it.
right. So I'm excited to introduce to you debut biblical novelist Elaine Kelly. Elaine and her husband live in Ontario, Canada. Elaine's New Testament novel, Forgotten Followers, just won second place in Colorado Independent Publishers Association Awards. Elaine, welcome to Behind the Story.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me. I have watched a number of your episodes, and I just really enjoy hearing other authors and their experiences writing biblical or Christian fiction.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to get to know you because you've met Naomi through the group, which we'll talk about a bit later. But for those who aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you write.
Well, I am from Niagara Falls. Well, I'm in Ontario, near Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. And I live with my husband and our little dog, and we have 3 grown children. They have now moved mostly out. And I worked for 30 years as a financial advisor. That was my career. And as I was getting close to retired, I spent more time working, reading and studying about women in the Bible. And that's how it came about that I wanted to write about women in the Bible. But for our hobbies and activities, we like to hike. We live near an escarpment trail, and we've done a lot of hiking there. We play tennis and pickleball, and I play clarinet in a community band.
I'm so glad to hear that. That sounds fantastic. Your debut novel, Forgotten Followers, is from years of submission. Mara is afraid and unsure about everything, especially her nephew, Jesus. Then he's chased off a cliff, and Mara is forced into the unknown. At the same time, Joanna grapples with hiding her mixed race heritage or losing her family and community. Despite trauma, abuse, racism, and inequality, they join other women disciples. Will Jesus's opposition to the establishment endanger their lives? Well, congratulations. So what is the story behind Forgotten Followers?
I really wanted to focus on the women that were with Jesus and how many women there were that followed him, that studied with him as students and were patrons and eyewitnesses of his miracles. And I just felt if the reader could go in the shoes of a woman disciple, they would see Jesus in a new way. So I did want to have a fiction where Jesus is interacting with the women, so you can see how he treats the women.
So did you use other resources? I mean, obviously there's a lot of research with biblical fiction in the culture, but other than what was in the Bible, to expand about the women, did you have any other resources that you gleaned from?
Yeah, there was a lot of research. I haven't been to the Middle East, so I had to research the Middle Eastern culture and foods, the Jewish culture and traditions and religion, also the first century, how that's different from today in the Middle East, as well as the writing craft itself and how to publish, how to write. But more than that, of course, the Gospels are the core of our faith. So there was a lot of work in looking at interpretations and devotionals and studies of the Gospels and the women in the Gospels, and also some of the church traditions, which come from 1,000 years ago, about what might have been true, or, you know, if I could get something from church tradition, I would use that rather than fiction. I mean, I would look at the Bible first, and everything has to fit within the Bible. But beyond that, I would try to fit it within church tradition. So, for example, Mary of Clopas, she could have been, some people think she was the sister of Clopas. Some people think she was the wife of Clopas. So I had to make a decision there. But there were some 3rd century historians that wrote that Clopas was the brother of Joseph, which is where the idea comes from, that Mary of Clopas could have been her sister-in-law or sister at the foot of the cross.
Wow.
Right. And I've had the opportunity to start in on Forgotten Followers, and you have her as Jesus's aunt. And it's interesting because she does start out skeptical, but that's exactly what the Bible says is going to happen with, a prophet is not without honor in his own land. Like it was an interesting perspective, I think, to see that hesitancy, I guess you could say, at first with Mara, and how she's interacting with Jesus. So I thought you did really well on that.
So yes, with what's going on right now in Christianity, we have a lot of people that are questioning their faith and they have questions and doubts. And I really wanted to address those by writing about a main character who had questions and doubts. So Mara is full of fear. She's been through a lot of trauma prior to the book starting, and she's afraid to believe, afraid to have faith. And her journey through the book, if you're as a reader having doubts or fears, you may relate to her and look and try to do the same thing she does to heal.
Great. That's great. I had a my story, Fake Identity at Stake, has the main character, the guy, questioning things, because, his dad didn't get healed of cancer, that kind of stuff. And, that the tragedy that brought. And I know a critique person like read it and she was like, oh, because he was, just being honest with himself and God, you know what I mean? But they'll, a bit like, whoa, what was that about, sort of thing. But, you can't hide that people are thinking these things, and you need to bring it out and address those things rather than pretend, these things aren't happening. So that's really good that you're like doing, because that's how fiction is. You're in the character and
Right.
you're experiencing, and also even if you're not going through that, you can relate to other people who are going through that. So that's good that you've addressed that. Now let's introduce us to Mara. What are her strengths and her quirks?
Yes, so I did start to talk about that. She has a number of doubts and fears as a result of her early years. She had an authoritarian father and a very silent and submissive mother. It did not work out well as an example for Mara. And she also had experienced abuse from her teachers. So all of these things put together meant that she had a lot of leftover things that she had to work through before she could trust people. She was afraid to speak. She relied on others. She sometimes physically couldn't speak. And so that is the journey that she's on.
We've obtained some really fantastic endorsements, including Sheila Ray Gregoire. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Sheila Ray Gregoire.
Gregoire. Excellent. Author of The Great Sex Rescue. Such a refreshing, life-giving read. These fictional stories are grounded in amazing historical research and made me see Jesus's love for me in a whole new way. So how did you get Sheila to get on board with Forgotten Followers? That's exciting.
Oh, that clearly that's God at work. It's not me. So I do listen to many episodes of Bare Marriage Podcast. That is back to healthy, biblical-based, evidence-based advice for marriage and sex life. And I did lean into some of those topics when I was developing Mara's character, because Sheila Ray Gregoire does interview people that are coming out of that kind of house that Mara was coming out of. And also, like, it can affect the marriage and sex life, and that affected Mara in the book as well. So what happened was I reached out to Sheila Ray Gregoire on her website, and I said, I have a biblical fiction that is about, that shows Jesus and women and equality. And then in July, I just emailed her and said, did you look at it? It was a free ebook, advanced reader copy. And she replied. She saw my email and she replied. She said, yes, I've been reading it. I love it. And I said I was looking for a testimonial for my back cover. And right away she wrote back a couple of lines. And so I sent it straight away to Friesen Press, who I was working with. And we cut out half of my blurb and put Sheila's testimonial there instead on the back cover.
Oh, fantastic. I love it. That's wonderful. I mean, you think that these like celebrities almost, if you will, are untouchable, but it really just takes an email to reach out, and the worst they can say is no, and you're already in the no spot. So I mean, it can't get any worse.
To be honest, I did reach out to quite a few people.
Did you?
And most of them I didn't hear back from.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. So if you're watching our show, in the comments, we'd love to know which minor celebrity, I guess we're calling them, that you've reached out to, and what your experience was. Did they respond? Did they not? We'd love to hear your experiences. Comment below and let us know.
Just don't name them if they didn't respond.
That's right. No shaming.
Respond to it. Okay. So what drew your attention to these ladies in particular, these forgotten followers?
Yeah. So in my novel, there are quite a few women followers of Jesus, but there are two. I tell the point of view is based on two people. Mara, I've already talked about quite a bit, but I mean, for many years, since my 3 daughters were very small, I read them a picture book with a picture of Clopas and the other disciple on the road to Emmaus. It was 3 men, and I colored over one of the men and gave it a purse and a hat and covered the hair and made it a woman. I really wanted my daughters to see themselves in that story. And as I started to research for the book, I found out there are actually quite a few theologians. They don't know who was with Clopas, but a number of them also think that it could have been his wife. And then as far as Joanna goes, I really related to Joanna because I worked as a financial advisor for 30 years. And Joanna is one of the ones named in Luke 8 as a patron or a financial advisor for Jesus.
Right.
And so I feel like she's a model for me as a financial advisor. And I know there are other books about Joanna, but there are also other books about Sheba and Rahab. And so I really wanted to explore Joanna and where she might have got her money from. Again, as a business person advising people on retirement planning, I look at where's the money from and where is it going, and what is the role of patrons in the first century. So that was very interesting for me to explore. But I also used Joanna as a way of exploring the way Jesus reached out to foreigners and to immigrants, because I feel that's a very relevant theme for today. So she was probably 100% Jewish in truth, but in my fiction, she is hiding that she is partly Greek. She is biracial, and biracial people are having still the same problem today as in the first century.
Yeah, I think you really did well on highlighting those ladies, all the ladies that you bring in. It's really neat to see their perspectives following Jesus on that. So let's talk about your writing. What routine do you go into as you're crafting novels here?
So I am new to writing fiction, and so at first I just went through the Gospels and I picked out the stories where women would have been eyewitnesses present with Jesus. And then I didn't include the stories where the women were not eyewitnesses or present. And then it seemed to be just a series of anecdotes, and that was no good. And I took some online Skillshare type writing courses, and I thought, no, it can't be a bunch of anecdotes. I have to limit it to 2 points of view, not omniscient. At least I thought that. And then I had to rewrite it because I need more plot points. And I had to actually go back and add in some challenges or obstacles to make it more clear what the goal is of the main character and what are the obstacles for the main character. So it meant rewriting it a few times. And so now what I am doing for my next novel, it is doing that from the beginning so that I don't have to hopefully take all that time to rewrite it. But it is, I have a very large spreadsheet on 2 monitors, and on one side is the Book of Acts, which is where my next book is set, and then the Roman history in the next column, and then a column for each character and what they're doing at the same time and how old they are, that kind of thing. And I did, there was a master writing course online as well that suggested doing that kind of thing. Even if it doesn't show up in the novel, it helps to keep track of where people are, especially in Acts when they're moving all over the place and they're different ages.
Right. Yeah. That's good to have your own timeline if they don't offer one, for sure.
Yeah, that sounds very complicated. But I think you need to be with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is.
Honestly, I'm hoping that it will save me time. I'm hoping that it will save me time to have that spreadsheet and to develop my plot and my writing, knowing kind of where it's going.
Oh, definitely.
Well, and I think,
definitely.
I mean, we all learn as we're, so the second one, you're going to keep learning. It's a learning journey. It's not, unfortunately, an instant download, I think. So I think that's good to try something new, and hopefully it'll keep your brain organized. And
yeah, that's it. I like to be organized. That's for sure.
It usually, like with the first book, does take a lot of time, a lot of rewrite. So can I ask how long that process from the concept of you first actually typing the first words to the final edits before you sent it to the editor, the final editor? Was it like a couple of years?
Probably a couple of years. Yeah, a couple of years. I had spent like a lot of 2021 just reading about the women before it was like September of that year when I thought, no, I could put this into a novel. It's so interesting. And a novel would be the way to share it with people who aren't interested in a theology book. And other people might like to hear these stories too.
Awesome. So let's talk about yourself. What is something people might be surprised to learn about you?
So I feel like I've talked about quite a few surprising things, but there's one surprise I haven't told anybody too much, and that's that I like to do a little bit of art. I haven't done it lately, but my sister lived in Tanzania, Africa for about 11 years, and my husband and I went to visit her there, and she is now writing picture books or children's picture books. So I did the artwork for her picture books. And so that's very fun.
Yeah.
Her name is Lori Vandenherk.
Very cool. So this is a very serious question. What is something that you do so well that if it was an Olympic sport, you would win?
Well, it's a tough question. I did that strength finder test a little while ago. Top skill is learning. So I'm going to say I'm a good person. I'm a good questioner. Sometimes I'll think of 3 questions before my husband even finishes his sentence. My kids sometimes get annoyed because I'm asking so many questions. Like, just wait till I tell the story.
Next year, they'll have it in Paris for questions, and we will look for you there.
So tell us what's coming next for you after this book.
So Forgotten Followers is set in the time of the Gospels, and it finishes at Acts 2 with the Pentecost. So I am going to be writing a book called that was Forgotten Followers. The next one is Forgotten Apostles, and it will be taking up where we left off in the early part of the book of Acts. So I know that's the time of and then their numbers grew. Naomi, you're working on?
Yeah.
So we might have a little bit of overlap, and that's fine. I think they'll be different though, because they're different stories or different characters. And
right.
And you, Lisa,
it's even if we do have the same character, we have different perspectives going into it. And it's going to be, I mean, the nice thing about the biblical fiction crowd is they just want all the books. So they don't care if they've read this story a billion times before, they want a new perspective. So
yeah. And the other thing for you, Lisa, I did not have a romance in Forgotten Followers. My characters were dealing with other issues, but there will be a romance in Forgotten Apostles. So, so that will be good.
I like when Naomi puts a bit of romance in there. She did with her last one. So, it was Sarah was like wanting more though, wasn't she? Our critique partner, Sarah, she wanted more romance than you.
Oh yeah. I'm like, you got to keep it in the confines of biblical history here.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. Like in Forgotten Followers, Joanna, of course, is a patron, and one of the other patrons named in Luke 8 is Susanna. So I have gone with, and you know that in Acts we have Philip and his 4 prophesying daughters. His wife isn't mentioned. So I have Susanna falling in love with Philip, the deacon.
Oh,
dun, dun,
very
dun.
interesting.
Okay, so where can the readers find you online?
ElaineKelly.ca. Being from Canada, it's .ca at the end. So ElaineKelly.ca. And I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as Elaine Kelly Author. And I have a link tree that's Elaine R. Kelly. R is my maiden name for Ricker, so Elaine R. Kelly. And I'm going to also be sharing this, the interview on my YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, I have my interviews, but also I've curated some videos that I've watched in my whole study of the Bible. That if it was a video that I enjoyed listening to, I keep it on the list there. So if you're looking for studies that I've looked at, some of those are included on my list, my playlist.
And Elaine is also hanging out on Biblical Fiction Aficionados. We just came off of a really fun author takeover party. So you'll definitely find Elaine at Biblical Fiction Aficionados as well.
Yeah, I really enjoy that group. It's been fantastic to interact with other readers and writers.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Behind the Story.
I really appreciate the chance to be here. Thank you so much to both of you.
So remember to connect with Elaine and her books. She is offering a paperback to the United States and Canada. So we'll have a link in the show notes with that, and we will have her other links so you can keep in contact with her. We also have some freebies. Naomi mentioned on Desolate Heights, which you can sign up but it's available on all the platforms. So we'll have a link for that. Naomi will send that to me so I can put that in the show notes.
Yes.
And
I will do that.
I've got a free novella as well. It's a Christian rom-com. It's in audiobook or ebook, and the link will be in the show notes.
If you love hearing new content about great Christian or sweet and clean books and authors, we'd love for you to follow our channel. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so you are notified every time we have a new interview, as well as giveaways. You can't beat a paperback book, and that's open to Canadians and US. So be sure that you're entering into that, and find Elaine online, say hi, tell her we sent you. So coming up next, I believe, is your guest, Camilla Isley.
Yes.
We welcome her to the show. We're excited to have her on. And until then, thank you for joining us on this edition of Behind the Story.